You're carrying the pressure to perform, protect income, and hit the next metric. But anxiety keeps telling you something is off. With Chris Arnold, former marketplace executive and the author of the book From Success to Surrender, Finding Your True Purpose in God's Perfect Timing, we unpack what happens when you release financial control, craft a personal mission and vision, and let your inner peace and not comparison guide your leadership decisions. Like this episode, subscribe to our channel, and DM Future to continue the conversation. My name is Arjan Visser, human centered futurist, and your host. Chris, welcome to the All Journey.
Well, thanks for having me, Arjan. I'm looking forward to our time together.
I am too. And there's the first question that's actually a burning question, and that is what if the success we think we want is actually the very obstacle between us and who we are created to be?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and it's it's really part of my story. Is that the first half of my career, I was pursuing what I thought to be success, and from a worldly perspective, really had a lot of the great things. A position, title, wealth, had all those great things, but yet it was only through a job loss that I started to kind of reevaluate. Okay, what is success? And that started a whole journey.
I love it. That well, in the situation, the moment, of course, it was a slap in the face that you just lose your job. And I read in your book that actually you were just escorted out of the building, and
Yeah.
and then the mental challenge. What if this is happening for me?
Mm,
What is the grade that comes out of it? And holding on to that. And
yeah.
but actually that challenges that how we see real growth. I assume because that was like that in my life and what I see around me, that real growth was always expressed in what do I achieve? Can I achieve more? And actually, it was never about I have to redefine what success looks like. I have to
Mm,
give up what I thought that was mine and actually to begin to reclaim what is really truly me, what's truly mine. So how did you, I would nearly say, survive before you started to let go this avatar, this self-image of what success looked like, the position you had?
mm. It's a good question. As you mentioned in the book, I kind of talk about being escorted out, and one of the things that tell folks is that really looking back on it, I really was really wrestling with fulfillment at that point in time. And there was a lot of things that really for the past 5 years, while again career success, I was really having a lot of career success. There was just something lacking. And so there was a certain element of freedom. I think I mentioned this in the book. I got in the cab on the way home and said to the cab driver, "Hey, how's your day going?" And he says, "I think it's going better than yours." And I said, "You never know, brother. This could be the best day of the rest of my life." And walked in the door from that, and just my wife Lisa was there, and just really said, yelled at the top of my lungs, "I'm free!" And there was just essence of freedom, to where we've all heard about the golden handcuffs and things, and in essence, that was a part of what was going on in our lives, is that there was a golden handcuff. So that next season of my journey, I just happened to, at that time, just take 40 days. And I think Purpose Driven Life was probably popular back there then, authored by the name of Rick Warren. And so I just took 40 days. And that 40 days, I tell people, was transformational. At the end of that 40 days, what I really told you is that God and family were priorities in my life. And I wasn't totally off track, but reality is that recentering on those being the true priorities of my life, and then going through this process of, hey, were we really created on purpose for a purpose? And if so, how do you figure that out and understand that? So that's really where the journey started to say, okay, look, moving from success to more significance. What is significance, and were we created for something special in life? And how do you figure that out?
That's actually a great invitation you gave yourself, or maybe you echoed it to yourself, that
Mm,
what if this is the best day of my life? And I love that stepping up in this is freedom, and you gave yourself the time to work it out. But I only imagine, based on my own journey, that there was a raw moment of that you had to let go, had to surrender what so much defined you, but with hindsight actually wasn't you. How did that go? How did you struggle, wrestle through letting go what helped you to define who you were in the external context?
yeah. Well, I wish I could tell you it was easy. But there were definitely challenges on kind of going through that process. And again, you mentioned a key word, surrender. And that's the name of my book, From Success to Surrender. And really, we were talking earlier, the journey is that from success to significance is what we're looking at, but it's that midpoint of surrender that really is the whole key that I think we're kind of yeah keying in on. And so what does surrender look like, and how do you go through that process? And I tell people, hey, don't rush the process. For me, candidly, I'm still trying to figure it out. We're probably 17 years later, and there's a whole lot of it that I'm still trying to figure out from a surrender standpoint. But I think really just coming to the place of, okay, you know, ultimately, there's more to this life that's not just about me, and coming to a place of, in my worldview, feeling that, okay, we were all created by a creator for a purpose, and that I never really looked to try to figure that out, or even commune with our creator on, okay, what does that look like? And it was at that season where starting to lean in, and then going through a process of dying to yourself, your desires. And it's difficult to really describe that journey as what it is, but it is a literal death to self. All your ambitions and everything, you start to question everything. It's like, okay, you know, at the end of the day, I'm a gifted leader. Um, but yet, what am I leading for? And going into the first half of my career, what I would tell you is that a lot of the success was because I was a great leader and really inspired people, and employee engagement, and how to serve them, to serve for the mission. But the why behind that was all about getting to the goal that I was trying to achieve. So it's really somewhat reframing about the why, and why do we do things, and what is driving us internally. And from that, recognizing that I've still, in my case, I've got the gift of leadership, so I still get to exercise those gifts, but my why is a little bit more, in alignment with, a bigger why of, in now, my why is really around coming alongside leaders and helping them discover their purpose, and being intentional on fulfilling that purpose. That's what drives me day in, day out today.
Yeah. You use the word alignment, and
Mm,
I think that's the key word.
yes.
If you just take success and you connect it to surrender, it's easy to interpret it as giving something up that is valuable. With hindsight, I hear you. You said it made space. It created a space to
Hmm.
align who I am, to unfold my identity, my get a grip of what my purpose is and how it is expanding. So the surrender was not the giving up; it was the space creating moment to find that alignment. And now the significance is something that is an expression of you being aligned with who you are. That gives you the freedom, that gives you the fun, but it
Yep.
also gives you the uncomfortable that you don't know what is expected and what you expect from yourself. And there is actually, in between the lines, I hear you say that this was a waking up moment where the success to significance seemed just to be a survival run. And now it's the life given, purpose driven, identity unfolding journey
Mm.
that is just you being you and finding out how you can be the greatest gift for someone else.
Yeah, that's good. In the word, when you said alignment, what immediately came to mind is how do you sense that you're in alignment? And so, you know, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self control, those attributes in our inner being, it really comes back to, I'll just stick with the peace. I mean, when you're experiencing that, it's like, okay, I know I'm in alignment. You go back to, the earlier years and even today on occasion, but earlier years, I mean, I would have, fits of anger and just, it was a lot of inner turmoil going on. And so it's those times, I think, that inner peace that we're all given that helps us to sense, okay, are we in alignment? And in my case, also, I mean, it's not only myself, it's also bringing other wise counsel around me, up to and including my wife. Is probably the best the counsel that, but we're always in unity and spirit moving forward. And whenever we have that sense of peace, we may not know where we're headed. I mean, we're even in a season right now that we don't know what next year brings. We've got some ideas on where we might be headed with our business in it. But yet, there's just a sense of peace. And that peace comes from just seeing over the course of time how the journey is unfolded and how, again, in our case, God has provided, provision. Financial security is also one of those ones of the things that I think a lot of people wrestle with, and as part of our story. We actually had to wrestle a lot with finances, and candidly had to give up quite a bit of finances over the course of the journey. But there was never a day where I missed out. There was always food on the table, and we lived a reasonable lifestyle throughout the whole journey. So that was also a turning loose part of the process too, is like financial control. The control of finances, that's probably been one of the biggest things I've had to let go of. And so even going into this next season that I'm talking about is like, you know, I'm not one of these folks that's sitting here with a tremendous amount of wealth and never have to worry about whether or not revenue is ever going to come in, but yet I'm at peace in my journey now to know that, hey, look, I've just seen how, it shows up in the right timing. Um, yeah. I mean, I can tell you, we could talk the rest of the story on that one, but I'll leave it to you on that.
Yeah, but I believe this is such a honest and valuable insight, which makes it real. That this journey of finding significance by letting go the self image that seems to be successful to the outside, but on the inside it's just hard work to keep on meeting expectations, goes hand in hand with being fully invested. And it sounds like a nasty paradox that you are in survival mode, keeping up appearance that you are successful and you are rewarded for that,
Mm,
versus that you find out who you are and who you are called to be and have to be fully invested, which seems that on the cash flow it can be sometimes really tight, and at the same time experiencing peace, joy, kindness, patience, like you said, on the inside. And you've learned one thing: those didn't come by achievement.
mm,
You could only lose them.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, another thing that's come to mind is they didn't come by comparison either. So I think one of the things that I've had to kind of wrestle through is that, trying to compare myself to others and chasing after what other people look like, and the status and the fame and the fortunes of them. Not even fame and fortune. It's even people, that are gifted and talented in the arena that I'm, kind of in the coaching arena these days too. I think we find ourselves a lot of times, and folks that I work with are tending to compare themselves, and we just need to get at peace with, hey, look, our story may not be our story is our story. It's not somebody else's story at the end of the day. So it's coming to peace with, it may not look anything like, some of these other people that we're trying to compare our lives to. And that's okay because that's not our story. And so just coming to a place where we surrender to whatever, I know you have my best interest at heart. And I'm going to just continue to sit in this, and I'm going to anticipate that you're going to use me for your glory at the end of the day.
Yeah, comparison. And we all know it. The comparison kills so many things. It kills our creativity. It kills our peace, our rest. Actually, our whole exploration of our identity. And at
Mm.
the other end, we still step into the trap every day if we're not careful that we measure anything based on comparison. Well, because the whole measurement with the metrics is a comparison based scale. And success, promotion, achievement, even belonging, we define based on comparison if we're not careful. And I think that significance, that and belonging, that's what you found when you stop comparing yourself with others. So can you say with hindsight, it was the best day of your life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't wish it upon anybody personally. I mean, I don't really wish that my journey upon anybody, because it is a difficult journey at times. But yes, absolutely. Looking back on it, it was the best day of our life. One of the things that also happened too with that is that I was able to craft my personal mission statement, but also my vision statement. So in my life, one of the vision statements that came very early on was to experience freedom and flexibility to serve God wherever called without concern for income. And so living that out and running it through that filter has always been a part, again, for more than 15 years of saying, okay, freedom and flexibility to serve wherever called without concern for income. Um, that freedom and flexibility piece of this has been huge. And so, it's just uh, that's something that I took a full time CEO role about you know 8 years into the journey. Um, I was approached about taking a full time CEO role for a startup company that was in the indoor farming business. Actually, Netherlands, partnered up with some Netherlands folks. I know you're in the Netherlands. And when I was going through the discernment process of trying to figure out whether or not I wanted to step into that role, um, it was one of the conditions is that I still needed to be able to have an experience of freedom and flexibility that I'd been experiencing in the years prior. So fortunately, in that case, I mean, that was the case. I mean, I had the conversations with the board of directors right up front that, here's some things that looks like, and we kind of put some parameters around it. But and to that point, I mean, things like family being priorities and values. I mean, I clearly articulate. I got very clear on the things that I valued in life, and whenever I step into opportunities like that, and as well as other opportunities today, those are the things that I just continue to lean into and say, okay, can't sacrifice it at the end of the day. So, um,
Well,
yeah, that.
when you
Go
said
ahead.
your mission statement, I would nearly say for most people that is a paradox. Your flexibility and your freedom.
Hmm.
And I would nearly say the security of income.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So it's that second half, right? That second
It's
half
that
has been the
second half
journey, right?
because,
So,
and then we are, before we know, we did it again. We sacrificed our flexibility and freedom
hmm.
to get some certainty.
Yep. Yeah, and great point because that's the thing that I tell people. Hey, I've always experienced that first half. That second half's the part that got taught to me a lot in the journey is on really having to turn loose of the finances. But as I was talking to earlier, I mean, while we gave up a lot, we always had plenty. It just like it didn't look like how I had it framed up in my mind, and still today, it's the same journey. It's like, okay, I mean, ultimately, um, so yeah, as you were talking earlier about, key metrics and everything, it's unfortunate that, there is a little bit of paradox with the whole money thing in this world. But, you know, I tell people that, you know, in order to be missional, you have to have, finances to be sustainable. I mean, if you're not sustainable in a business, then you can't fulfill your mission and purpose. And that's the same thing for you and I, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we still have to have a business that's going to fund our heart's desires and mission. And, part of that is, it's still, you got to come to work every day. You got to do the things that we know that we are supposed to do on a day to day basis. But there is this element of just being okay with you put in the work and leaving the outcomes to somebody else. And stop the striving, aspects of things and really coming to a place where, you're still fighting hard. It is a paradox. I mean, we're using this word about a paradox. You're still fighting to win. It's just the inner being and motivations are different about how you go about that process, I guess. And it's at the end of the day, it's not about the win that is as satisfactory as just knowing that you're at peace with the fact that, okay, I'm walking in obedience and this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah, well, actually, bringing up that word obedience,
Mm,
and I've used the word being fully invested in what you believe. They are there could be synonyms in this one because your obedience is that you're fully invested and you have already surrendered yourself of all the things that are actually not defining you.
mm,
And in the mission statement, we always say in the mission statement is no action. So it's not what we're going to do. And that's, I think, where the key is in the paradox, because you have to protect every day your flexibility and your freedom, because it was given to you, but you could lose it. And at the same time, the income, the output, the results, you have to trust. There is a huge factor of trust. And we could shortcut both literally shortcut and
hmm
destroy it when we think, no, let's make it an achievement. I will handle it myself. And that deep knowing on the inside, that's trust.
hmm
That's, and again, that's surrendering your fears. Because the
hmm
moment your fears take over, you immediately start to compare yourself to the metric, to the external factors. You're fully in survival mode and you're going to fix it yourself. And that happens once in a while. And then with hindsight, you look back and you think, that didn't accelerate me on my journey.
hmm
It just made me tired.
Yeah, and as I'm reflecting on those times, I'll go back to the peace. It's when I'm doing that kind of stuff that I'm not at peace with it. There's a little bit of anxiety going on. There's something in me causing me to say, I got to step out and strive. And so I'll just continue to come back to that's really in the season of life that I'm at is like whenever I'm starting to get that sense of, you know, anxiety around something, then I know, okay, I need to pause here. Um, you know, and just because you can still do hard things, but be at peace with doing hard things. Um, so it's not about, hey, uh, copping out and saying, hey, I'm not going to be a fighter. You still fight hard, but you're at peace when you're fighting, I guess is what I'm really trying to articulate. And so, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and it's hard to articulate. And those
Mhm.
who are fully invested and giving up the avatar, the false self-image in
Hmm.
their personal growth. I think they all resonate with what you just said. And it's hard to articulate. And you've mentioned it. It's not what I wish anyone to go through, but at the same time, the duality with it was worth it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's kind of coming to mind is the end of the book. So I actually had the book completed in 2018, but yet I just couldn't come to a place of getting it finished. And the reason being was is that I was looking to get to a certain destination and look back and tell the story. And so, as I'd mentioned about that same time, again, the CEO role came about, and ultimately, I was really trying to get to the top of the mountaintop moment again, and look back and tell the story. Um, in 2023, that particular business adventure came to an end, and so I was at this kind of point of like, okay, I'd reached the mountaintop, and now I'm coming back down into a potential valley. And it was at that point in time that I was really convicted about, finishing the book. And the big thing that if you read the epilogue of the book that it talks about is that I was looking for a destination, and I was reminded it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. And so, that in essence, part of what we're saying here is that this is a journey. It's not a particular destination that we're trying to get to. It's a daily surrender, and you're walking out this journey through life.
That's so true. And so you nearly stepped into actually the old paradigm of, and those who have climbed mountains know that the moment you get on the top of the mountain, it's not to boost about, look at me, I climbed the mountain, follow my lead, this is the way. The
Mm,
first thing you notice when you're on top of the mountain is that all the hard work, you're no longer out of breath. And it's always a miracle. You're impressed by the view and you start talking about the next mountain peaks,
mm,
and you start to talk about the next valleys you're going through. So it's not about the destination, it's about the view. It's that
mm.
expansion of vision that happens when you've gone to that end of a stage threshold in your personal journey.
Yeah,
Yeah, great. So how can
it's
people
interesting.
get hold of your book?
Yeah, so a few ways. First of all, we do have a website that's out there, www.fromsuccesstosurrender.com, and then it's on all the major publishing outlets, Amazon, worldwide on Amazon. So again, the title of the book is From Success to Surrender: Finding Your True Purpose in God's Perfect Timing. And yeah, just love to and if somebody wants to connect with me after they've read the book, then definitely there's some ways to do that on the from success to surrender dot website com website.
I will make sure that the link to the website and Amazon with the book title and your LinkedIn profile are all added to the description of our podcast. So, and I really encourage people to get a copy of the book and work it through, not as a destination to finish the book, but
Mm,
to give yourself this honest opportunity to let go what's not yours and find true significance. And that is probably in unexpected corners and will reach full much further than you could imagine right now. But this is an invitation. So I'll make
yeah.
sure you all got the details to get a hold of the copy. Actually, my last question, my last main question: what does surrendered leadership look like to you, especially in a culture that surrounds you that is really built on ambition, output, metric, all the external exposure? How does surrendered leadership look like to you?
Yeah. I don't serve that audience anymore. I'm not looking outward to really get my approval anymore. So it's really, again, as we've talked through, the podcast today, a lot of us is coming to a place of just being at peace. Uh, Again, in my particular worldview, I mean, ultimately, I've spent time with our Heavenly Father daily, just talking in communion with Him, and ultimately through His Spirit being led, and believe that He leads us on a day-to-day basis. So being at peace with, I'm walking obedience with where I'm supposed to be at today, and for today, that means being on a podcast with you, my friend.
Well, I thank you for that. And it resonates so much with the message that I tend to speak a lot about, authentic leadership, which is leadership from the inside out.
Mm,
And inside out leadership is all centered around that inner dialogue having with your source. And like you said, your Heavenly Father. And I share the same faith. But for my listeners, it's like it's up to you to find the right source. And I
yeah.
trust you will find the right source and have that inner dialogue and lead, make choices based on that conversation. And that will mean that the status quo will not fulfill your needs. The status quo will keep you hostage in that success and actually ask you to sacrifice who you are. And the way forward is, and I want to thank Chris for that, for leading us and inspiring us to get out of that sacrifice circle, is to surrender and align with who you are becoming, so that the effect you have on people is authentically yours and gives you that inside out life based on peace, joy, and alignment. So, Chris, thank you very much for for this podcast, and I'm looking forward to what people picked up from it. So, I encourage everyone that listen to leave your comments. Use the possibilities you have to just leave your comments, and we will follow up, because most of the times the first step is to just express for yourself where you are in your journey. So something must have resonated, and now it's up to you. So next week we have another podcast guest. I invite you to join that one. And if you can't wait, then just DM Future to me, and I will make sure you get an invitation for the Authentic Leadership Transformation Dialogue, where we continue the conversation to find out what is that pondering question that's emerging to you and that prepares your leadership for the next chapter. Just DM Future, and I would love to see you next week.